This Lego story we're about to dive into was actually insane because $200,000 worth of Lego that has now turned into multiple $1,000,000 lawsuits and people that are really concerned about their careers and their free lives has turned into the story that everyone's talking about. So we need to look at it ourselves. Sometimes crazy things happen in this world. Today, as we dive into this one, I'm drinking myself a coffee. Let me know what you're drinking as you watch, and thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Now let's dive in.
I'm investigating a $200,000 Lego dispute that's turning into one of the craziest legal cases in years.
Yeah.
Brian Mansell claims that Bricks and Minifigs stole one of the largest Lego collections in the world, and the YouTuber who tried to get it back got arrested. So today, I'm trying to answer one question: who's legally responsible? And it all started with this consignment agreement. A few years ago, the owner of a massive Lego collection, Brian Mansell, signed this agreement with a Bricks and Minifigs store run by Crystal Law Gorman. The agreement says the store would sell the collection, keep a percentage of each sale, and pay the owner the rest. But the important point is that the Mansell family would still own the Lego until it sold. Almost a year later, Brian drives out to the store and finds different people running it. BAM Franchising, the company behind Bricks and Minifigs, also known as BAM, had ended Crystal Law Gorman's franchise agreement and taken over the location. Crystal says BAM wrongfully took over the store, changed the locks, and seized everything inside.
All right, so far, you have a guy that put stuff on consignment so that the store could sell it for him. That's just a common thing that people do when they're trying to have something sell. Then you had the store owners that were selling things off, giving this man some of his money as it was sold, but it was in their possession, still owned by the primary owner. But then their franchise agreement was revoked. They couldn't get into their store because it was locked up on them, and the new owners now lost all the Lego, or sold it, or kept it for themselves. That's what I'm getting out of all this so far.
But BAM says it had the right to take over the franchise because Crystal allegedly fell behind on payments and planned to close the store. Afterwards, the Mansell family says they weren't allowed to go inside to check on their own collection, and the monthly payments stopped. Then Brian sent a letter ending the deal. He asked for the Lego back, the money owed, and sales records showing what had already been sold. He gave them 10 days. 10 days passed. The family says they still didn't get the Lego, the money, or the records. That's why this case is crazy. The original store owner says BAM is responsible, but BAM says this was never their deal. What's clear is that someone owes Brian money.
Who do you think is actually responsible here? Do you think Mansell is responsible for his own collection and maybe he was irresponsible in how he handled it? I don't personally think so. Crystal, she had her store ripped from under her. She couldn't even get in. She was the one that signed the agreement. So essentially, she's the one that's responsible for that agreement. And then BAM came in, the ones that stole the store, or I should say, took the store back. Are they now responsible because they took the store? Did they take everything inside of the store as well as all of the contracts that go along with the store? So really, this is a debate whether it's Crystal Law or BAM that are responsible for the contract that was made with Mansell.
Owes Brian money. Now, as a lawyer, this is where I start asking, who had control? Yeah. Who had notice? And who has the records? In my opinion, refusing to produce any records could suggest that BAM is worried about legal exposure. Maybe they made an error, or maybe they don't want to risk producing something that people could interpret as them making a mistake. Later, we'll discuss a YouTuber who tried to help bring attention to this very issue.
And now this is one of the concerns. As a content creator or a YouTuber myself, we highlight some of these things that happen. The question is, did this YouTuber go too far and get into the personal lives of some of these people? Because he wasn't just talking about things online, he was actually physically going to these places.
But first, who's responsible for the lost Lego? Crystal, the original person who ran the store, says BAM knew about the consignment. She says the collection was still inside the store. She told BAM who owned it, and they took it anyways. And she claims to have security camera evidence showing this.
He's taking on the business, he takes on all that consignment liability.
BAM CEO, Ammon McNeff, said, "We were not a party to this agreement. Simply, BAM is saying they didn't sign the contract. They didn't approve the contract, and they shouldn't be responsible for the Lego. Their main argument is that Crystal broke company rules because consignment deals were not allowed under its franchise guidelines. Crystal disputes that. In fact, Crystal shows in this video that the franchise agreement does allow for consignment services. If true, that complicates Bam's argument, but Bam can still argue this particular consignment was never approved by corporate. But company rules aren't the same thing as property law. The Mansells never signed Bam's franchise manual. They allegedly signed a consignment agreement with a bricks and minifigs store. And under that agreement, they argue they still owned the Lego. And according to Crystal, Bam knew about the consignment deal. If a court believes that, Bam's "we were not a party" defense gets weaker. Because even if Bam didn't sign the original consignment agreement, if they were on notice and knew about the Mansell Legos prior to taking over, then a court could still find them responsible.
Did you ever think that something so intense in the court system could be revolving around Lego? It's pretty crazy to me. But with that being said, at the same time, whenever we have anything of value, in this case, $200,000 worth of Lego collections, it's the same thing as artwork in that sense, although it's a child's toy. It's just crazy the things that we run into here on the internet.
Bam also argues the agreement allegedly had a line that matters a lot now. It said Crystal was responsible for shortages, loss, or damage while the Star Wars Lego was in her control. It also said she had insurance. And Bam points to another detail. They claim the collection was not kept at the store after the public display. So they argue this is Crystal's responsibility. If they were not in the store when Bam took over, then that would suggest the Lego were not in their control and would strengthen their defense. That still leaves the bigger question. What happened to the family's Lego after Bam took over? The Mansells say they marked their items with yellow dot stickers on the UPC codes. And according to them, after Bam took over, Brian sent a buyer into the store who bought a sealed set from the shelf. It had a yellow dot, and the family says they were never paid for that sale. Crystal even alleges Bam removed the yellow dots from the sets. If true, that's one of the most damaging facts in the case, because removing the tags could suggest that Bam took intentional steps to make Brian's property harder to trace. Now, Bam says they only found between $2,000 and $5,000 worth of items that could possibly be related to the Mansell collection and offered to return them as a courtesy. But if Mansell marked items were still being sold from the store after the takeover, that could contradict what Bam is saying. Bam also disputes the value. The Mansells say the collection was worth over $200,000.
Now, part of the question here that I have is, the collection's value, is that determined by the person that is collecting, or is that determined by the actual sticker value of something? Because a lot of times some of these collectibles have different values based off of rarity or based off of just inflated values because of what it is, and it may not be the sticker price. So maybe the sticker price is around $10,000, but the collectible value could be up to $200,000.
Records reviewed by a third party put the value at roughly $60,000 to $98,000 for the box sets alone. Regardless of the value, under Oregon law, if prosecutors can prove theft and the value is over $10,000, that can become aggravated theft in the first degree. And because the father, Ed Mansell, is 83 years old, Oregon's elder financial abuse law could also matter in a civil case. If a court finds financial abuse of someone 65 or older, damages can triple. And then a YouTuber named Reckless Ben decided he was going to investigate it himself, which is where the story gets even stranger. Reckless Ben is a YouTuber who saw Brian's story online and decided he was going to help get the Lego back.
Now, we're gonna take a look at Ben's most recent video as well, and it's actually pretty crazy. We'll follow this story here, then we'll watch that story, and then we're gonna take a look at how everything has been solved. Allegedly.
Ben went to the bricks and minifig store with hidden cameras and asked the operators where the Mansell Lego was.
My friend said that you guys have some of his Legos, I think, and he told me to come here and see if I could pick them up.
Who's your friend?
I think they're Brian's Legos. It's like a big Star Wars collection set, I think.
That part is important legally because Oregon's recording law is not as simple as one-party consent. Video-only recording is different, but if a hidden camera is also capturing in-person audio, Oregon generally requires all the participants in the conversation to be informed of the audio recording.
Now, I did say earlier on that the content creator, the YouTuber, wasn't just going online and doing research, they were actually going in person. And while he was going in person, apparently he was breaking some of Oregon law. I didn't even know that different states have different laws regarding recording. I always think that that's a little bit wishy-washy anyways, because I personally wouldn't want to be recorded, especially if I wasn't known that I was being recorded. But it looks like he got himself in some hot water, and I know that he's still in it because I just saw his update video that I'll show you guys soon.
The video spread widely online, and Brian's case went from a local dispute to a national story. But then Ben allegedly did something that could hurt the whole case. At one point, Ben claimed one of the new store operators offered to return the sets if Mansell made a public apology. Mansell reportedly refused because he believed an apology could hurt his legal case.
I need a written apology from Brian. I need all the negative comments taken off. I need positive reviews on there to make up for the damage. And then I'll give them back.
I'm not apologizing for shit.
Ben then allegedly sent a fake AI apology video showing Mansell apologizing, apparently to see if that would get the sets returned. But according to Ben, it didn't work. Oh, wow. Now that could seriously hurt a case. If one viral video is fake, a defense attorney can use that to attack the real videos too. They can ask the jury, if he fabricated this, how do we know the rest is real? Then Ben took the story to Utah, where BAM is headquartered.
It seems that this YouTuber may have made this case even more difficult for the people that were fighting it.
But he didn't just go to the BAM office. BAM alleges Ben's team went to multiple private homes, dressed as delivery workers, approached a family member who wasn't involved in the business, and even sent someone who allegedly pretended to be from a church congregation to get one person out of their house. The legal issue here is location and targeting. Filming from a public sidewalk is usually treated differently than going to private homes and using fake identities to draw people outside.
I actually really like that the legal terms are being put together here, that it's being laid out to us so that we know what's actually legal in this state and what's not.
And now there's a separate legal problem: the police response. In March 2026, Utah police reportedly arrested Ben and charged him with misdemeanor stalking, targeted residential picketing, disorderly conduct, and criminal trespass. Ben says officers stopped his group for running a stop sign, even though the footage allegedly shows a full stop. He says police searched the car for drugs, held them for about 3 hours, and found nothing. Police also searched the Airbnb where Ben was staying. The warrant said they were looking for stolen Lego merchandise. If those stops, searches, or arrests lacked legal cause, then Ben's constitutional rights may have been violated. And in my opinion, that can mean Ben has a lawsuit against the police department. After the arrest, Ben claimed police injured what appeared to be his left shoulder. Then BAM filed its own lawsuit in Utah, which accuses Ben of trying to manufacture legal leverage. According to the complaint, Ben's team allegedly disguised a contract as a delivery signature form. BAM says a store manager thought she was signing for a package, but the document allegedly included a clause saying Ben couldn't be trespassed from the store. The complaint says that Ben allegedly claimed the store owed him $5,000 every time employees called police on him. In the video screenshots attached to the complaint, BAM says Ben later demanded $40,000 based on that alleged document. If true, that gives BAM a way to frame this content as alleged fraud, extortionate pressure, or harassment.
Again, as this gets deeper and deeper, we need to remember that we're talking about a Lego collection here.
BAM requested a temporary restraining order to keep Ben away from the people and places connected to BAM. But that order didn't just ask the court to keep Ben away. It also sought to take down Ben's videos about the dispute. And get this, BAM even reached out to Patreon, trying to get Ben's content removed. But Patreon CEO denied the requests. And I see a big problem with this. Once you move from stopping contact to trying to remove videos and funding platforms, it starts looking less like protection and more like silencing criticism. And that can backfire for BAM if they want the public to believe that they did nothing wrong. And they didn't just go after Ben. They also sued Brian Mansell. That's important, because Brian didn't make the alleged deepfake, and Brian didn't show up at anyone's house. Bam's argument is that Brian coordinated and directed Ben's campaign.
All right, you probably want to see the YouTuber's position right now. So I'm going to pause this for a moment, and we're going to go take a look at where he stands today. So this is the content creator we were just speaking of, and this video is titled My Final Message. It seems like things, even as of today, are not going so well for him. This is a short one. Let's tune in and see what he has to say, and then we'll dive back into the other video.
Episode 3 is finally finished after crazy all-nighters and basically destroying my health. But I can't post it.
He's talking about episode 3 of the Finding Lego series that he put together.
I will go to jail. And not only that, I will also immediately lose my lawsuit of $300,000, and the GoFundMe we made for Brian will go straight to this mystery company that I am no longer allowed to talk about. They sent court papers to my email, which I guess a judge approved for them that this was a valid form of service. And so now that I'm officially served, I cannot even mention this company or I will be in jail and everything. Normally I would be like, screw the big guy telling me what to do. I'm going to do what's morally right. But in this situation, if I do that, then all my friends get screwed with this lawsuit and we lose all the GoFundMe money we raised.
Now, the question that I have to ask is, was he doing this the proper way? Was he actually going out there and being a true investigator, or was he pushing the limits? Was he pushing people, doing things that he wasn't allowed to do? And apparently, from what's being said here, he was doing things that were illegal in the region that he was doing those things. So he was not being as careful as he should have been. And again, he said taking down the big guy and all of that. And I understand, especially with some younger folks, how they don't want to have to answer to the big man, but you still have to follow the laws of the area that you're doing whatever your work is.
Like immediately. So I am no longer allowed to even mention this mystery company. My personal opinion is that this is unfair because this order was put on me because this company was telling the court that I was making threats. I was planning on murdering the manager and employees, which obviously I didn't do, and you can see that in the footage. The only problem is I was not given a chance to share my side. The court just heard their perspective, not mine. So because I wasn't able to share my side, I am now no longer allowed to talk about them, and looks like this might be it.
All right, so now we're going to dive deeper into the Lego scandal as it goes beyond that.
Brian's side would likely argue this looks like a slap suit, which is a lawsuit designed to pressure someone into staying quiet by making the fight expensive. Both Oregon and Utah have anti-slap style protections, but where the lawsuit is filed matters. Different states have different procedures, deadlines, and standards. BAM filed in Utah. Now, BAM will say this is not a slap. They'll say they're protecting their people from harassment, false claims, and dangerous conduct, and maybe they can prove that. But suing Brian is where this gets risky for BAM. Brian is the person asking where his family's collection went. In my opinion, if BAM wants the public to believe this is all just harassment and they are not responsible, the best evidence would be simple. Don't sue Brian, the person who's clearly been wronged. Instead, show us the records. At this point, there are 4 legal fights happening at the same time. The first is the reported criminal investigation in Oregon. Kaiser Police and the Marion County DA have been looking into what happened to the Lego. The allegations raise possible Oregon theft issues, including theft by deception, theft by receiving, and aggravated theft in the first degree. No criminal charges have been filed yet, but the investigation is described as still open. The second fight is BAM's lawsuit in Utah. The third is Ben's criminal case in Utah. Those charges are about what Ben did at private homes, not what happened to the Lego. But they still matter, because if Ben becomes a witness in the Oregon case, opposing lawyers can use his conduct to attack his credibility. And the fourth fight is Crystal Law Gorman's lawsuit against BAM. She says Brian still had about $100,000 to $125,000 in Lego at the store when Bam took over. Oregon investigators are asking, what happened to the Lego? Brian is trying to recover the value of the collection. Bam is trying to stop Ben and Brian's campaign against them. Ben is fighting charges from the way he investigated the story. And Crystal is now suing Bam for allegedly taking over the store, seizing assets, and blaming her for missing inventory.
There's a lot of moving pieces with this case.
Brings us back to the question everyone keeps asking. Where's the Lego right now? Bam says they found between $2,000 and $5,000 worth of items that could possibly be related to the Mansell collection after Bam took over. Records reviewed by a third party put the box sets alone between roughly $60,000 and $98,000. If Bam only found $5,000 worth of possible Mansell-related items, at least $55,000 is still unaccounted for on the box sets alone. And if Brian's $200,000 number is right, then almost the entire collection is missing. But in Bam's complaint, they give their clearest answer yet to the missing Lego. Bam says it found one clue in the old point-of-sale records. According to them, the record showed 367 Star Wars lot set purchases with an estimated retail value of about $46,000. Plus, 336 Star Wars lot purchases worth about $12,600. But Bam also admits a problem. Those records don't prove which exact sets were sold or whether they were Mansell sets. So the records could support Bam's theory that a lot of the Lego was sold before corporate took over.
Right, and then you say the people that actually signed the contract with the owner, maybe they weren't reporting properly on what was actually sold. If they were in a financial distress situation, maybe they weren't trying to give him all the money that he was owed.
But they don't fully answer the question. Meanwhile, Crystal says Bam has refused to provide the complete records back to her. This is probably one of the reasons she filed her lawsuit, so she can force Bam to produce those records. And according to Brian's side, the yellow dot purchase creates another problem. After Bam took over, someone connected to the investigation bought a sealed set from the store with the Mansell family yellow dot still on it. That means at least one Mansell item was still on the shelf after Bam took over. And the family says they were never paid for that sale. I gotta say, if this is true, it makes me wonder if one marked item was sold, how many more could have been sold?
Yeah.
If I was arguing this in court, this would be a major argument I would make for Ben. Bam later said it became aware of the consignment and said some items had been identified. They also offered to help through appropriate means. That's very different from their original statement. We were not a party to this agreement.
This is probably getting bigger than Bam wants it to get, and they're trying to lend a hand and help without actually giving back all of the money because it's gonna hit them in the pocket big time.
Generally, if you're holding someone else's property, you have to account for it. You don't get to say, we only found a few items, if there are records or witnesses showing there may have been more. And Crystal says, Bam never completed this process and never provided real accounting. That's a big problem. At minimum, it suggests a sloppy takeover. At worst, Brian's side will argue it made the Mansell Lego harder to trace. Because once inventory is mixed, sold, moved, or stripped of tags, proving ownership gets much harder. Because the real question isn't whether the Lego was valuable. Everyone agrees it was. The real question is who had it last, and why can't they say where it went? Reckless Ben's videos brought massive attention to this case. They helped force public responses that may not have happened otherwise. But the alleged deepfake, the home visits, and the confrontational tactics may also give Bam's lawyers arguments they can use against him. In court, that's extremely important. A defense lawyer can use Ben's methods to distract from Brian's evidence, especially if they can show a connection between the two. So right now, the Oregon investigation is described as still open. The lawsuits are pending, and the Mansell family says they still don't have the Lego.
Now, in this video from CoffeeZilla, we have the store owners who have a little something to say. Then we go to the YouTuber, and apparently we've made some headway on this case in the recent few days.
And we didn't get pictures of it.
If I
That's
messed
reasonable
up,
explanation.
if I messed up on my record keeping, I will take accountability for that. It's possible. If my staff didn't draw attention that consignments had left out, so I'd move them to the thing. Any of that, I will take accountability to that. I am more than willing to do that. I need Bam to show me those tickets.
As they promised to do.
I will sit down with Brian and talk this over and figure out what we missed and where it was missed and how it was missed.
So right here, she's stating that if she did something wrong, she'll be accountable for what's wrong. But Bam is in control of all of those tickets, and so far not giving any of that information over.
And make that right with him.
I mean, that's new information no one's ever found out, so that's like awesome. They're gonna lose hundreds of millions of dollars because of their own wrongdoing. They're literally gonna destroy their entire company because they're this stubborn over maybe $20,000 worth of Lego.
Sure, I'll be keeping you in the loop with what
Nice. I'm excited. This was good work. My other final thoughts is, dude, you solved it, dude. That's awesome.
So it seems that some progress was made right here, and Ben is actually going to be paying out for a lot of what has actually gone on right now. To think that these stories, such as a Lego collection story, can turn into so much money owed to people for all of the damages along the way. If you have any insight or anything that you want to say regarding this case, please say it down below. And if you want to dive into some even deeper controversy, these videos have you covered, and I'll see you guys over there.